Hola, peoples.
Hello.
All right, then. So, tonight we're going to talk about pop culture witchcraft. And if any of you want to join in on the discussion, have anything to say, utilize the Q&A. We're going to talk about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Good Witch, which is like the movies and the TV series, and Supernatural. And what pop culture witchcraft is a show that, you know, talks about pop culture. We talk about, movies, shows, books, and all that jazzy stuff that incorporates witchcraft and magic. And we discuss how you can utilize it in your craft and uh, just how awesome it all is. We discuss on how you can channel it and just, utilize pop culture witchcraft in your personal practice and how to be inspired by it and have fun with it. So again, because I see y'all are logging in, so I'll just reiterate what I said already. If you have any questions, utilize the Q&A. We're talking about pop culture witchcraft tonight. We're going to start with Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We're going to move on to The Good Witch, and then we're going to end with Supernatural. Okay? So, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Who wants to start first? Because Buffy's awesome, and I do know we have a wonderful Buffy fan up in here besides me, and someone who knows it really, really, really well, probably better than I do.
I'm a super Buffy fan. I literally watch it on the regular. Like, it's terrible, really. But yeah, so who doesn't like Buffy, and who doesn't like the witchcraft in Buffy? Because
I know.
it's fantastic. It's all just addictive and sexy and beautiful in its own right. I actually of a lot of pop culture witchcraft, there's a lot of truth and reality in the first few seasons of Witchcraft in Buffy. It got a little bit more fantastical as it went on, but I think that the root of it's really there, and yeah, I think it's awesome. Willow is my all-time favorite character of all time, and so yeah, I don't know what else to say about it really.
Well,
I
there's so much magic in Buffy, and there's so many different, spells that they utilize, and they incorporate. What I like, and I guess it's perfect for witches and perfect for people who are coming into power to understand the whole process of magic and witchcraft during during the show and every season. There's so many different things that process, and there's so many things that happen. It's perfect to how am I going to say this? For any witch, any practitioner, as you begin, you have that high and that craving for power, and that just doesn't go away. But you learn from your mistakes, and as a baby witch and as a baby practitioner, you tend to make you have to like throw your power out there, and you have to kind of like feel out your boundaries and all that. And sometimes you get bit. And I think that Buffy, the way that the magic is expressed in Buffy, it does it well, where it shows how it's like a muscle. You have to keep practicing and keep getting better, and you hone that skill, and you perfect your skill, and you get stronger. If you do something too soon, you can actually damage yourself.
Right. And oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
oh no,
They, huh?
I was just agreeing.
Oh. What I really enjoyed about Buffy, about especially, which all of it is great, even the first few seasons, but I really loved it when Willow found Tara, because before the romantic part of it, but even the romantic part of it, they were a great couple. But she expressed this like such ecstatic. Both of them were just so happy to find another practitioner that believes similarly to themselves. And I was like, they capture that moment so well. You know what I mean? Like, that's exactly how I feel anytime I find a practitioner that is open to the same things I'm open to, and I'm just like, oh my God, you know, it's just like, yes. And I feel like they captured that so well.
Right.
Which you guys know, that's a not a moment that we all have a lot. We do obviously, we have our circles and we have our friends, but it's rare to really meet an a practitioner that is a practitioner. I love, obviously, everyone, we've talked about it several times on our shows. Um, uh, they're, a bunch of wanna blessed bees, which is so funny to me. It will always be one of my most favorite lines. But yeah, I love when Tira's like, expressing to Willow how, she's been practicing forever and her mom was a witch, and Willow kind of has that epiphany. And on just like a really, really small note, and I know that my significant other is not a witch, but I had a similar epiphany when I met her, because she believed the same as me, and she was of our world a little bit, and I had that moment, and I was like, oh, Tara Willow moment. And I still think they were jackasses for killing her off. I'm sorry. It was. Can we just all agree? We all need to be in agreement that Tara dying had nothing to do with the plot, and that Willow would have gone apeshit anyway, and been right back to it. So, just saying, we all need to be in agreement with that. I'm still writing letters, still.
And I like the fact that within their relationship, as witches and as people of power, it shows that they're both powerful witches. They're both very strong witches, but in very different ways. Where Tara doesn't, she doesn't necessarily understand and know her full power. I don't feel, it's not expressed in its entirety. Where Willow is just like more aggressive, she's more extroverted, and she's like, using and working because she has to, because she feels like that makes her a part of the team where she's worthy of doing something. And so you see Willow's power and her expression of power versus Tara, where you have Willow, who might be a little more dominant in the way she practices her magic, and Tara, who is a little more submissive, and she's a little more quiet about it. But you do see their strength and their power in both of them, and how they come together and they create. And that's something that's very important for witches, because it's pop culture witchcraft, and we're going to tie it in with our reality. It's important for us as witches to understand that, because our magics will manifest differently, and the way we express them will be different. So when you come across someone who might be a little more extroverted or dominant or something like that, that doesn't mean that you're any less powerful. It means that your power is slightly different, and it's at a different on a different frequency, and so you can't really compare.
Right. And they really do blend Tara and Willow together very well, as far as Willow, like you said, is very aggressive, and Tara is kind of like the calm center that brings Willow back down to a more manageable state when she gets really intense. I think if Tara hadn't been there, evil Willow would have shown her face a lot sooner. Tara was sort of like her
Anchor.
Counterpart. Yeah, anchor. Yes, there you go. That she was her anchor, and she did an excellent job of that. And like you said, in reality, it's an amazing thing when you are able to find someone, or several someones, or three someones, that whose magic blends, and their ideas of magic blend so well that they balance each other out. And it's amazing, just an amazing experience, which is why I kind of get frustrated whenever I hear people talk about, I'll always be a solitary, there's no one out there that I agree with, and I'm like, that's the point. That's a good thing. Don't look at it as a negative. I understand the frustration, but don't look at it as a negative thing. If we were all the same, it would be boring. You know, plus you need that sometimes, that difference to,
Well,
you know, expand yourself.
and I think it's you to have that difference, especially in your in craft wise. I get frustrated with you two all the time. We are very, very different witches. We just are. I mean, there's some things that we are on point and we totally believe, and we're, you know, uh, all on the same page. But then there are times, and it doesn't have to often, especially not live, where we very differently. We just have different views, and we express our magic in very different ways. And I can say that on a personal level, yes, does that frustrate me all the time? Yes, but it teaches me, and that is something that is important, and I think was important for that relationship and all of the interconnected relationships of the witches on Buffy, because there were more. Um, Amy being a huge part of it, even into the later end of the plot,
And her mom.
and her mom. There were several. Of course, there were ones that were not witches, but magic practitioners that, you know, were kind of constant in the show, and the interconnection of it and what it teaches Willow. Obviously, because she is one of the main characters, and most of the plot lines with the witches was directly related to Willow, for that example. But it taught Willow a lot. Every relationship that she had with another witch taught her something.
Right.
Even ones that were not witches, the ones that were, you know, her Wicked group,
Right.
and taught her that this is, you know, witchcraft is so more. It's so much more than what they are expressing. And so even the talented witches beside you, they may teach you something, but the not as in depth witches can also teach you something. I'm not gonna call them any other thing. The Wand of Blessed Bees, we'll call them that. They can also teach you something, and I think that the interconnectivity of those relationships can really be brought back into reality with all of us, because we learn from one another and we learn from each other's expressions and each other's differences more than we do our likeness.
Right. But you know, in the entire like season 1 to season 7, you see Willow grow, and what I really appreciate about this, and what I think is important for us to express as witchcraft and you know, as witches, is you see her grow from from basically being no witch to baby witch to almost a goddess. But at the beginning stages, you know, she was doing one of the spells she did was like gypsy. It was gypsy magic. It was and that changed her. Like, she kind of got possessed, and like, you know, she had that energy, that channeling, and that shifted her. That changed her. That sort of created that craving, that taste for power, for more. And so, that's very interesting to think about, because that force came in, and it worked its power, and it worked through her, and she got that taste. She was like, I want more. I have the spirit, or the essence that came through me, and I find resonance in it. There was something that I had experienced, and now I want more, and therefore, it took her. You know, it claimed her, and then she goes on and she develops more and she practices more and she does, you know, some stupid things and some not so stupid things, but she continues to practice, and she grows. But it shows you that no matter what, when you practice something, it's going to change you. It changes you on a different level, and depending on how big or grand of the ritual or the spell or the working that you do, it'll influence your entire being. It'll influence the way that you act. It influences the way you react, as well as how you treat and experience other people, not just other witches. And so I appreciate pretty much everything that you know, the entire Buffyverse expressed, because there's a lot of learning that we can do from it.
Definitely, and also on that same level, there's a lot of what not to do learning, especially when it comes to Willow. And just really quickly, I know we can't talk about Buffy forever, even though let's just have a Buffy show. That would be awesome.
Good. So
But I think that there comes a time in all of our practices where we literally want to cast a spell for everything. And we want to use our magic because it is an addictive. I felt, so I remember being 15 years old and watching that episode where Willow becomes a junkie, and she becomes literally addicted to channeling energy. She needs it. She's fiending for it. She becomes a magic junkie, and there are times in I think all of our practices where we want to wave our wands at every fucking thing because it just it just makes it easier. Let's point and just fix it. And sometimes, not gonna say all the time, but sometimes that has got me into bigger messes than I was already in. Not that I've ever been like, oh God, I need to cast right now. I need it so bad. It's not like that kind of addiction, but it's more of I want to rely on my magic entirely, and as beautiful and as wonderful as that is, and how reliant I am on magic, there are some things that you may not need to, just, there's just some things you may not need to do because you may, as a baby witch, think you're fixing the problem, and you're actually making it fucking 10 times worse. If you'd have just left it alone and let it be, then, it might have come easier, but we all have lessons to learn as we grow in our magic.
True. That's true, but I think that process is kind of necessary because you learn so much. Like, you know what I mean? You go through all that and you're like, you cast all the time, and it's like every day is a new spell, and I'm going to use magic for everything now. And as much as that isn't as practical, whenever you get older, you figure that out. I kind of feel like it's necessary, though, just because of everything you learn from doing that. You know what I mean? That makes sense?
Yeah, it definitely does. And maybe that's the point where you learn discretion.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. Yeah. So let's have some. If y'all want to say anything, if you have any questions, feel free to use the Q&A. But let's talk about how we can utilize the Buffyverse in Witchcraft. Like, how can we utilize it, let's say, for love working or for malediction or to channel anything in Buffy for any certain reason, like whatever pops into your head, how can we use Buffy in Witchcraft? And the funny thing is, before we get into that, I'm gonna read over here. But one thing that always stands out to me when I think of Willow and Witchcraft is when the season where Glory which is fucking funny, y'all. That's yeah, Glory is funny. But when it's right after she, I think it's right after she takes Tara, or, brain fucks her, and Willow is pissed off, and so she gets her bag of tricks and she goes, and she does her little incantation, which is what Kali, Hera, Kronos, Tonic, Erlich, Nectar, thick as Onyx, Cassio, by your second star, hold mine victim as in tar. And that always, and the way she transforms and the way that she expresses herself, that's always stuck out to me. It's always just been there. There's other way more impressive Willow moments, but there's just something in that moment where she was like, I know I'm probably in over my head, but I don't fucking care because you fucked with someone I loved, and I'm going to use my power to at least, try and hurt you. So, yeah, how can we utilize Buffy in craft work?
Well, I'll go ahead and go, I guess. Let's see. And y'all, I'm sorry. I've only seen Buffy once the whole way through. But I love it. Not to say anything bad for it. I do totally love
Blasphemy.
it. Blasphemy. I know. But I don't know. I've only seen it once all the way through, but I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. You know, I enjoy the whole show, and I guess the way I would use Buffy, the Buffy verse in Witchcraft, um, you know, of course, I'm just going to think of Malediction first. I don't know why. It's the most fun. But, you know, whenever they raise Buffy back from the dead,
Yes.
and they were all thinking they saved her from this horrible, horrible thing, but in all actuality, she was happy, she was at peace, she was in heaven or whatever. You know what I mean? She crossed over and she was fine. And that would be an interesting not letting your enemy rest kind of spell. You know, kind of utilize that same essence, that same sort of channel, that kind of energy to where, yeah, your enemy can never rest. Maybe not bring them back from the dead. That would be kind of pointless. But, you know,
Right.
never let them rest. You know, they don't sleep well. They're constantly in a state of...
They can't claw out of the coffin. They're stuck.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that.
Funny. That's funny because I was thinking the same thing, malediction. And I have you've seen the episode Hush, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about when I say Hush, with the something men. I forget what they're called.
Watched that episode like 5 days ago.
I forget what those dudes are called, but they're fucking creepy. They're creepy as fuck. And so you could actually utilize that episode in so many different ways. You can create a puppet, and you can set that puppet, and because we charge our shit, of course we charge our shit, but if you get your TV and you play that episode, create a crystal grid. Quartz crystals I would utilize, and maybe, just quartz crystals to intensify it. And create a puppet and that person that you want to, like, scare, and really scare, like, make their heart, like, fucking shake, like, possibly burst, and play that episode, and channel the, what are they called? Those men.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, it's gonna bother me. But, you know, those men, the hush men, and you would utilize them to really charge the working, and scare the fuck out of someone. You could even utilize, like, create a puppet of one of those, the figures. They're fucking creepy, and charge that, and then get another puppet to represent your target and chase that fucker. Like, really, you know, create a situation where you're gonna, like, really scare and really dominate and take from their heart. And this could be, like, you could utilize that to break up a relationship, or to hurt someone who has hurt you, because of the heart connection. Yeah. And
that's awesome.
Well, Willow also does, like, so many different barrier spells. You could take inspiration from the barrier spells in Buffy and utilize that as inspiration for your own barrier.
Most definitely.
They were called the Gentlemen. Yes, thank you so much. The Gentlemen.
You feel so much better now that you've thought about that.
I do. I'm so appreciative. Thank you, Wiccan Fury, for telling me.
I think that I could literally go down the fucking line and be all chaos magey for a second and, like, draw archetypal energies. I'm not going to because it's short for this, but going a little different ways than malediction, which
surprise.
It may never happen again. No, I love the power transference of the Slayer axe. Obviously, in that it's a little different because it kind of awakened everyone. Every potential Slayer became a Slayer. But Willow performed a high-level transference energy to awaken the sword energy within the axe to awaken all of the energy before. You could take a little page from Willow's book and draw on energy from any object to either take into yourself or send to another. So working that a little bit differently. I'm just thinking if you had like writer's block, you could take, and you were in a writer's circle, and one of your partners was, can I borrow that pen? And then you transfer that energy from that pen or that pencil into you to get rid of your writer's block. You want to spice up your sex life. You can. Well, that'd be kind of gross. I'm thinking all the ways it'd be gross. But if you know those people that have a great sex life and yours is kind of lacking at the moment, I don't know what you would use. Everything that I'm thinking is disgusting. You could literally just I don't know, channel energy from their pillow, channel energy from their bedroom, use any place of energy, point of energy to focus, that energy. I'm saying energy a lot, but focus that expression of energy onto yourself or onto others. So using transference magic is something that Willow does from the beginning. I'm kind of shocked that was the last big spell of the show, but yeah. She's great at transference magic. She sucks the fucking energy out of all of the dark grimoires in the magic shop and becomes them. She's fucking great at transference.
Right. So. Well, and for those who let's say you're going to do stand up or you need to be funny for a situation, you could actually channel. I think Anya is fucking hilarious. You could channel her and Xander. But Xander annoys me, but he has a certain type of stupid confidence and he's kind of funny. But if you channel both of them, you could channel their persona, their energy, and you can go out there and be fucking funny. You have that confidence, you have that ease of speaking, and you will actually tackle and connect with people on various levels because Anya has a different energy where she'll connect with certain people because of the way she speaks. And then Xander is just like the classic clown where people are just like, oh, he's funny, but he's annoying, but he's okay.
The only good that Xander brought to the show was Anya, because she was just fucking great. But yeah, I was thinking while you were talking and both expressing your spells, the only thing that I could get out of my head was Anya, and she is. And if you know the storyline, obviously she was a vengeance demon. So she becomes human, and she does not know the social structure and the mores and the stigma of the normal society of the show. So she's always kind of on the outside, but she's also very free with herself, free with her words, and uninhibited in a wonderful and free way. And if there was anyone that I would like to absorb that archetypal energy from, it would be Anya. Just to be you. She has no problem in her own skin. She's so very comfortable, and she does not care about anyone's opinion of her, and not in a really shitty, stupid way.
Right.
Very confident and owning your own shit and being who you are, and not caring about the societal structure and what you should be, because she has. And she has no understanding of that.
She would actually be good for witches, not just baby witches, but any witch who is transitioning from a limiting perspective or a limiting belief. Let's say the threefold law or the Wiccan Rede, and you have someone who's battling with adjusting to that when they don't believe in it, so they're transitioning from this one perspective into another. She would be perfect to work with, and her energy to work with, because she understands that a job is a job and you have to do what you have to do. She kind of does not attach, well, eventually she does, but she doesn't attach so much emotion to it. It's just you do what you have to do, and it's just a job. Humans are stupid, and just get rid of it, whatever. But
Right.
another thing I was gonna say is to help like the grieving process. If and this is good to have on hand no matter what, in case you need help with that entire situation, you can utilize the show. I think I think it's called The Body. I don't know if it's that one or the one after, but it's when Buffy's mom dies. They find her, and then Anya is just like, I don't understand why she's not here. She was here and she's not here, and she breaks down, and everyone is like processing their grief, and everyone is able to express their grief in the way that is in alignment to their character. And so if you take that entire show and the energy from that show and you put it into maybe blessed water and use that water in a spell or salt, even. Or even some oil, and then you can use that oil in salt eventually and mix it together. That would be great to have on hand to help with the grieving process, because that was a very powerful show. That was a show that connected with everyone, because you have the mom who minor role, but her role was huge. Like, she connected with the audience, and that show was hard for people, and it expressed the grieving process intensely. So that would be great for healing work when you have to process certain emotions that are buried deep, and you don't really know what to do to get out of that.
Right. Another good thing, if you want to focus on knowledge, is in gaining knowledge, becoming knowledgeable enough to be a teacher or anything like that. You can just any show that Giles or Wesley are big focal points, which is a lot of the shows. Giles more than anybody, but have your Black Book, Book of Mirrors, Book of Shadows, whatever you want to call it, open during one of the shows. Put a few clear quartz, on it or whatever, and just sort of, channel that energy of Giles or Wesley or whoever that is researching this knowledge and sharing it with everyone. They're both just super nerds, but in a very, very good way. They know their shit. So, yeah, I think that would be a cool little
You were an Angel
thing.
fan, weren't you?
Huh?
You were an Angel fan, weren't you?
I watched the first couple of seasons, but I don't know. I mean, I actually watched, I think, the whole thing because I remember how it ended, and it was It was okay. I like this Spike came back.
I was thinking
That was the
that
best
you
thing
were,
about it.
because you mentioned Wesley a lot. I was thinking that you were an Angel fan because Wesley is more a central character in that. But yeah.
Right. Oh my gosh, we have to do another show on this. Like, we have to talk about Buffy more, because there's Faith, there's what is her name, Kendra. There's other there's Darla, and Drusilla. There's so many different characters that you cannot. And Drusilla is batshit crazy, but she's super psychic. So,
Yeah.
and that's borderline. Like, is she psychic or is she just crazy? We don't really know.
Nugget.
I think she's so psychic, she's crazy.
She's a nut. She's a nut. But yeah. So that is, those are different ways you can utilize, Buffy and the Buffyverse and pop culture, witchcraft into your reality, into your practice, and that's fun because you get inspiration when you watch something or you read something or you listen to something. It inspires you. The next one is something we discussed, and not really witchy, but kind of witchy, and it's The Good Witch. The Good Witch series, they have a TV show, and they have fucking a lot of more movies than I thought. So, The Good Witch, let's discuss The Good Witch, and what are your thoughts about it, and how do you express it, and how does it relate to witchcraft, and how can we work with it?
Well, I never watched the movies. I had never even heard of the movies. I'm not a big Hallmark Channel fan normally. I just stumbled on the show when I saw it on Netflix. And I was like, oh, it has Witch in the title. I'm going to check it out. It was really good. It's not witchy per se, not really. I mean, it's more healing and intuition based. I mean, the word witch I don't think is ever even mentioned in the entire show, but she has these amazing intuitive moments. Her daughter, Cassie is the main character, and I cannot for the life of me remember her daughter's name, but she is very. She has dreams. She has premonitions, and they're kind of the focal point of the whole show. And I really enjoyed it. It was really good. I love the bed and breakfast. It was just amazing. It's a very nice idea of what communities could be. It's sort of leave it to Beaver-ish, wholesome, but
Right, right.
it's still really good.
It's
It's still really good.
Yeah, and it's funny because the show, I have never watched. I've watched the movies, and the community was not as accepting of Cassie when she came to town. So she was like the Boo Radley, not as intense, but she was very much the witchy Boo Radley of that community because they did not like her. They were convinced that they didn't know what she was, but she was strange and she was weird, and it's very different perspective versus the show where they're very acclimated to the community, and then the movies, especially the first couple, where they're adjusting to that life and people trusting her and getting to know her.
Right.
Yeah, the only thing that I can take from it, honestly, is that being a little different is great, and it brings wholeness to a community, but and not again with the whole being different and standing out and being proud of it. That's the only thing I can draw from it. Like I think it's a good show, but as far as witchcraft goes,
I think it's not necessarily. I mean, obviously, it's not about witchcraft per se. Buffy and Supernatural have more witchcraft than any of this, but on a foundation, on that foundational level, it is about witchcraft because, and yes, Grace was her daughter. Is her daughter's name in the show? And thank you, Wiccan Fury. Appreciate that. All these names on point. But the movies, I never saw the last few, but I'm assuming that the way I know how the first few started out, and she was not accepted, and it was like it was this someone out of town coming into a small community, and she's weird, and so people are apprehensive, but she's starting to help people, and so people are starting to be like, I'm still apprehensive, but I kind of like you at the same time because your energy is like welcoming, and so I feel like the movie set it up where it shows someone who's weird and unique and different transitioning into a community and showing them how I am who I am. I'm not going to change that, but I'm a good person, and how she helps, and eventually that leads to the show where they're still some of them are still kind of apprehensive to her, but they're connected to her, and it shows the power of a witch. It shows the power that a witch has in alignment with the community. We have always been people who were, yes, on the outside, but the community always sought us out to do things and to cast and then to divine and to do things of that nature. And so the show, it doesn't have her casting per se, but it's very intuitive. It relies a lot on psychic skill, and that's a foundation. It's the foundational skill for a witch. Is like we have to hone that psychic skill. We have to know how to trust it. We have to learn to act upon it, and we have to really understand the nature of community. And when you take the magic out of community, it's chaos. When you add the magic into community, you have a wholesome experience. You have this connection, and that can actually be expressed as coven too. So there's little things in the show that I find very rewarding. It's so simple, and it's just nice. It's a nice feel from a lot of darker stuff, and this is fun and very airy-fairy and very light. And it has a lot of lessons in it, and it teaches and expresses so much of a lot. I think what we all need, especially right now.
Right, and I love when they introduce her cousin as the antagonist because she is such an intriguing character. It's like at first you're like, God, she's such a bitch, and then and then you realize what she's doing, and I just love it because there are times when we have to be the bad guy in a way in order to bring people closer together. And I love how it was a very unexpected twist to what you thought was just going to be a bad character.
Right, and her name's what,
the
Abigail?
Huh?
Her name's what, Abigail?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Was Abigail also a witch?
Yes.
Yes, and what I like about her nature, like what Melissa was expressing, is because she comes in and she's chaos. You have Cassie, who's very intuitive and very go with the flow, and Abigail, who comes in and she's like Melissa says, she's like this bitch. Like she just comes in and she stirs shit up. She initiates chaotic energy. She creates friction and challenge. But she's like, you'll thank me later, or you'll see. I'm doing this for you. You'll see. And she trusts that. Like I feel like she's more in tune maybe than, or in her own way, she's more in tune because she knows that when she comes in, she's there to help by creating change and challenge. And kind of like Deviant Witchery. So she's very helpful, but
Kind of like
people.
I think about going on about it, and I'm totally thinking about you.
But other people don't see that she's beneficial or helpful yet because they see that she's creating problems, and she don't explain herself because she don't have to. She eventually they find out. Eventually they find out. Oh, okay, that's
exactly. That's what I love about her. She's like, I don't have to explain myself to you. You're gonna see it eventually. I'm patient and I can wait for it to all unfold. In fact, I really love the fact that the witches in this show are they're just patient. They they kind of put up with some bullshit at times, but they're just like, it's okay. You're about to see that I'm totally right.
Right. That's the funny thing. That's the funny thing too, because in the show they're always like, well, we're right, and eventually they are. It's like, I'm right, I know it, but whatever, it'll take you time to find that I'm right, and it's okay, I give you your time, but again, I'm right.
Exactly. I really enjoy that. To me, it just shows, and they don't push people, they sort of nudge them, and then let them kind of figure it out on their own. They just give them that little bit of nudge here and there, to where it's not so overt that they realize that they are, in fact, being manipulated. It's a really crafty and sneaky, honestly. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, it's very cunning. And her house is beautiful, and I love how she mixes her herbs and she mixes her stuff, and it's beautiful. And it's a very interesting, expressive show. I think it's great for anyone wanting to learn and to experience that connection of community and that familial energy, because that's what it offers. And it offers that safe haven, almost, that safe essence where you feel comforted and you feel okay being who you are. Because that's something that maybe a few of them struggle with, but really they're in their own power, and they trust their instincts, they trust their nature, and they're comfortable in who they are. And the way they express themselves, they're confident in who they are. They don't express like they're ashamed or they're embarrassed or, it's a negative thing to experience. They're constantly expressing that it's okay to be different, and that other people are just, that's on them, they're afraid, they're whatever, but it is okay to be who you are. And I think that's a powerful message throughout the entire series and the movies, for all witches to really adhere to.
Yes, I agree.
So, in magic-wise, like witchery, how would you channel or utilize the show's essence to cast, to create, to craft? And in what way?
I like the the cunning, the helping without forcing, that sly nudge way. As and Cassie, honestly, as much as Abigail, yes, she affects more Cassie's family and their lives more so than the town, where Cassie does it on such a large scale. She manipulates the town, but
Yeah,
not in a bad way. In a very good way for what's best for the community. And people don't really realize how much they rely on her for her information and her guidance, and she really takes advantage of that. But again, not for like monetary gain or anything like that. For to help everyone in the community. And I think that especially for those the witches who want to be activists or are activists, I can't say that, or are activists. That was kind of hard. That would be something really amazing to channel from that show, is because it happens just about in every episode. You know, she figures out one way or the other to manipulate and move people around to where they do what's right for them. So, and the community. So if you are an activist, environmentalist, or anything like that, that would be an amazing thing to channel from that show. Just to channel Cassie and her energy in general. She does an amazing job with that, and that would help anybody, to help other people act in their own best interest by giving them these little nudges here and there. So that is something I would concentrate. You could even, I think I would even, if it were me, I would make like almost like a dream board. Take images from the show. I mean, you can get online, print some images out or whatever that focus on Cassie and how she does things,
mm-hmm.
and almost set it up on my altar, not necessarily as to worship, but to just get inspiration from. You know what I mean? Just sort of I think she would be a really good inspirational, almost like an affirmation, except you're sort of inspired by the whole thing, not just one little aspect. You know what I mean? I think
Right.
that would be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Well, I guess I'll say something, Lane. Let's see. There's so many different ways you could utilize that. Actually, this is going along with the same thing. I would probably utilize it in a domination working, like in a more dominant fashion, because and it works well because when you are dominating someone or you're dominating a situation, you kind of want to have that interconnection. You want to have the target to feel safe and connected, and so you don't always want to be so forceful. Dominance can be a form of very cunningness. And so with Cassie and Abigail, the way they work together, their energies, you have that go with the flow essence, which when you're trying to dominate someone, you want them to go with the flow. And so the whole situation will be very fluid, where you have Abigail, who's a little more forceful, and her energy will come in and be like, move. So it's not necessarily conflicting essence. It's they go hand in hand, because you need something to be very fluid, but you also need that nudge and that kind of force to make something, to move and to get the fuck out, or to do something. And so I would utilize that in a very, like, in a commanding, in a commanding working, or to have dominance on something, but to make it, especially for those who they like that their idea is the idea that is going to happen. Especially you have those people who you can suggest something, but if they don't think that it's their idea, then it's not going to happen. So it'd be perfect for that type of energy because Cassie is very fluid, like I said, and she's very trusting, and she makes people feel comfortable. And so she has this essence where I'm not here to hurt you. I'm not here to make things worse for you. And so that energy, that target will be comforted and will know that, okay, I can let my guards down. And then you have Abigail, which you can channel or utilize her in whatever way you can, and she comes in and gives the boot. Or does the command. And they listen because they're already in the state of submission or, in fluidity. And so it's easier to plant that seed.
Right. That would be really awesome. I like it.
That sounds wonderful.
Oh,
Another idea. Another idea would be if you wanted to do like a group, start a community something. Let's say you wanted to start a community garden or anything like that. You want to get people together just to discuss things like that. I would have the show going and running while I was like making the flyers, signs, whatever it was you're going to make to entice people to come together for the community. Like I said, that show is really good for things like that. It's got a very tight-knit community feel. Everybody looks out for each other. They try to help each other, things like that. So I think you could use the energies from that show for that very well.
Absolutely. So, do you have anything you'd like to add, Mr.?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Wonderful job.
Let's try and cover Supernatural. All right, y'all. Let's do Supernatural. And it's been on for fucking ever. So there's so much content. But the witches in Supernatural are very interesting, and usually they're all fucking evil. Which is whatever.
I've yet to see one that's not.
But so, what are y'all opinions of Supernatural, the witches, and magic, and the expression of the metaphysical experience?
I love Supernatural. It's not always bad, they're not always awful, or at least they don't always I don't know if y'all seen the latest season.
No.
But
No.
Okay, well, I won't discuss it then. But you need to watch this last season because witches do a lot. I mean, they do a lot of crappy things, and they do a lot of good things too. I like the fact that Witchcraft is all up in Supernatural. Like every show, just about, Dean and Sam use Witchcraft all the time for everything, summoning all kinds of stuff. Protecting. In fact, like Ellie and I are watching the first season of Supernatural right now. We're starting it all over because she hasn't seen a lot of them because she was like,
she wasn't alive
3.
when it started out.
When it came out or whatever. So I think it actually did start before she was born. So we're watching them, and the last one we just watched, they went back to their old house where their mom died,
Mm-hmm.
and they they're looking for their dad, but they also know that something weird is going on in their old house, and they consult this psychic who has also worked with their dad, and she helps them, and they create mojo bags to put inside the walls of the house to cleanse the house. And I'm like, that's something we would do, I mean, maybe not necessarily that way, but even still, you could do it that way if you wanted to. I just really enjoyed the fact that while some of it is way, way off, like they don't know how to say Samhain. I don't know if y'all have ever seen that episode.
Yeah.
Where I'm just like, ugh, someone research that shit better. But there's so many parts of the show where they do kind of know what they're talking about. I mean, not completely, but a lot closer to me than a lot of the other shows that you can watch, like The Pentagram, or Pinnacle. There's one episode where Sam explains to this chick that's wearing one that it's not, this evil, horrible thing. It's actually a symbol of protection, things like that. And that was pretty, especially when they started. That was kind of a, risque thing for a TV show to do. It's not like, everyone, all of Hollywood focused on witches are horrible, evil people. And then there was the show where they bust up the Kevin, who thought they were, like, getting everybody better houses and all this stuff, when actually they were feeding all their power to the demon.
Uh-huh.
You remember that?
Yeah.
That was too.
The book club.
The book club, yes.
It's I have mixed feelings about the witchcraft and supernatural. You're right. They use witchcraft almost every episode, but they have this weird definition of witchcraft. In fact, it makes me laugh because Dean is like anti-witch. It may have changed. Spoiler alert. Let's not do it, but because I'll get mad. But it may have changed his opinion. But he's like, I remember there's several episodes where he's like, oh, witches.
Yeah.
Like, it's a witch. A witch is causing this. Like, and yeah, speaking of Samhain, it's like it's the same way with Salem. They still say Samhain. It drives me nuts every fucking time. Anyway, yeah, but the actual witches on there are strange. They're not, all of them are not perceived as evil, because I remember the episode when the witch and the familiar were actually in a relationship, and there was actually like clubs you could go to where witches and familiars.
Yeah.
That was a weird stretch for me with that show. They took it to a very weird level. It's just strange, but the early on episodes with when it comes to like magic, it's like two sides. There's witchcraft and there's hoodoo. And the hoodoo is okay. The witchcraft is not okay, which is hilarious to me, because we know in reality that they're kind of like this. But they did a lot more research when it came to the hoodoo, the mojo bags, the goofer dust, the red brick dust, things that they did, hellhounds,
packs, crossroads.
They did a lot of research when it came to the hoodoo side of things, which I love, because it's just wonderful. Also with the ceremonial magic, they did tons of research when it came to a lot of the sigils and the work. 5 spots are all up in Supernatural, which we know are obviously quincunxes or crossroads, created crossroads. But that's like hugely significant in my personal craft. So, I mean, on my altar, there is constantly a painted quincunx. So, like, I draw a lot of inspiration from their hoodoo, which a lot of it's like borderline witchcraft, but whatever, they call it hoodoo, so whatever. Yeah, I love it. As much as it annoys me that the actual witches are just self-righteous dickheads in this show, because most of them are only out to get themselves better, and then I laugh and I'm like, am I annoyed because it's actually true? Because there are a lot of witches that are just out to increase their own wealth and increase their... And how many times have I done that? And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't talk shit. Like,
right. I like that.
Yeah. I love the crossroads stuff, y'all, too. That's just awesome.
Oh, the whole show, it's like they have, you have your demons, you have crossroads, you have pacts, you have, burying shit, you have, you have contracts, and you have everything. And it's very powerful. There's a lot of interesting information there. But there's one thing that always, makes me laugh all the time, and it's a quote, and I'm going to read it over here. And it's, Dean Winchester. He's like, I hate witches. They're always spewing their bodily fluids everywhere. And Sam's like, pretty much. And Dean's like, it's creepy, it's downright unsanitary. And that makes me laugh. That
You're
always.
True.
It is. Witches are all using all sorts of bodily fluids and all sorts of interesting things. And I don't know how I feel about the portrayal of a lot of witches in the show. I haven't seen this last season, so I don't know how it changes. But I do like.
It doesn't change a whole bunch, but it does change. To me, even in the last few seasons, when they introduced Rowena, Crowley's mom,
Last season.
I was just thinking about Crowley's
was it just
mom.
this season? Or the season before that?
The season before that.
Okay. And even then, even though, yeah, she's a witch and she's horrible and stuff, but she's awesome, but she's horrible, but she's awesome, and she's one of those evildoers you love to hate, or actually you just love.
That's not changing here. That's not changing.
Well, hold on, wait, I'm not done. They work with her, and Sam and her, even though, yes, they don't get along so much, they start to develop a different relationship. And then this season that relationship sort of expands. It's not that they completely trust her, but they don't really focus on the fact, and that's just because she keeps fucking him over later on. But they don't really focus on the fact that it's because she's a witch. It's because of who she is just in general as a person. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they do, like, to me, they don't focus so much on the witch part as just you're Crowley's mom and you're kind of a bitch.
There's one thing I will say. There's one thing I will say about the Supernatural series and how they portray witches is most often all witches are powerful. Or in one way or another, most of the witches have some sort of skill. They can hold their own, and they show that in the series. So I guess how would you utilize the show in your craft? Like, how would you channel a certain individual? How would you utilize it for, like, malediction, protection, anything like that? What would you do?
Okay. I'll go. Man, what can you not do? There's so much. You can channel Crowley if you are in you want to make a deal that's definitely going to be in your favor. Even after they read the fine print, they still haven't figured out that you're screwing them. Let's see, Sam and Dean. Sam, again, if you're after knowledge, Sam would be the one that you would want to focus on. Not just because he's the research guy, but also to me, his character's gone through way much more, like a whole bunch more shit than Dean's character has. I mean, he's been a demon, he's lost his soul, he's, been dead several times. At least twice that I can think of. So he's, gone through all this stuff, and so he has, like, not just book and learning knowledge, but real world application knowledge as well. And then Dean, if you don't like the fact that you're emotional or that your emotions show, Dean's your guy. Channel him, and, you might be unhealthily putting a lid on emotions because he kind of does. But yeah, there's just a lot you can do with Supernatural. The Hellhounds would be interesting.
Hellhounds are very interesting.
They are, and especially the episode where Dean finally does get caught by the Hellhounds. And I can't even remember what season that is. I think that's like 5. Is it that way?
I don't know. If you are also going through something really really tough, and actually you could utilize this through like rehab process, like if you're going through addiction and if you're processing that, because the process, the experience that Dean goes through, he's been through hell. He tortured people. He has this interesting connection there, and so he's done some like really intense and horrible shit that kind of was forced upon him, but not at the same time. So it was that weird relationship with, do I do this or do I not do this? Do I do this or not? I don't know. And finally, that intensity took over, and he did. But he comes out of it, and he's different because of it, but he is also doing better. And so you can utilize that character and that essence and that energy, that imagery, from the show to help process and help come out of a very intense and harsh experience, and to help you feel like, just because you've done bad things, doesn't mean you're a bad person. It can help you come out of that experience and into another, almost like, going from this place, entering the cocoon, and coming out new. It's
Right.
a rebirthing process.
Right, yeah. I was going to say about the Hellhounds in that particular episode where they finally catch Dean is you can utilize that and even create like a puppet, or I would use clay actually and mold a Hellhound of your own to hunt down what you desperately want, or something that you just can't find. I mean, that's the whole reason why they used the Hellhounds with and as many as they did with Dean, because he was hiding himself. They were trying to get him out of this deal, and so they brought in like several,
Right.
and used them to find him, and that would be a really, especially if it's something extremely important to you, and or someone who's done you wrong and you can't find them. That would be a very interesting energy to utilize.
Absolutely. So it is getting to our hour mark, y'all. So we got to close. We gotta close this shit up. If you have any questions before we go, feel free to utilize the Q&A. And even if stuff pops up afterwards, you can go into the group and we can discuss in the group anything that comes to mind. It's fun, and it's pretty cool to take again, old practice and old witchery and integrate it with new energy and taking inspiration from shows, and realize that there is reality and there is the fantasy, but understanding how to discern and take the necessary elements from it to inspire and to channel and to flow through you. So that's kind of what we're doing here in Pop Culture Witchcraft. That's what we seek to have fun with and create different thoughts and have an adventure. But comment on the YouTube video again if you have anything you'd like to say or add, or even if you want us to talk about a different book or a TV series or a movie, anything like that, anything that is associated with pop culture. If you'd like us to address something, comment and let us know. But until next time, y'all, we got to go. So peace out.